Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the August 25th, 24th meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Chaplin,
Here.
Member Chavez, Member Covert, Member Desart, Member DeCiani, Member Eckhoff, Member Garcia. Here. Member Hart, Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Ozog, Member Pachowski, Member Renahan, Member Rutledge. Here. Member Schwarzy, Member Selman, Member Tornatori, Member Zay.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum present. I am advised that we have a few public comments. So Dana, are you going to be reading those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any in-person public comment or no? Okay, just online. Go ahead, please.
First public comment from Marlene Rutherford regarding new voting systems. Madam Clerk, really? Question mark. You're going to accept the highest bid, twice as much as the lowest $5 million more. You ran on a platform of open and honest government. What we have gotten is incompetence and corruption. You choose. You are a great disappointment. Cook County is here at last. End of comment. Next comment from Jan Dorner. No subject given. One of a citizen's most important rights and responsibilities is the ability to vote using an efficient, accurate, and simple process. The replacement of DuPage's outdated election equipment is past due, and the requested equipment meets the requirements of the For the People Act that has passed the U.S. House of Representatives and is expected to be considered in the U.S. Senate soon. The system uses 100% paper ballots for the complete auditability, and the equipment is manufactured in the United States. As co-presidents of the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst, we are encouraging the DuPage County Board to approve the expenditure of $6.9 million for new election equipment. Signed, Jan Dorner and Dorothy McGuire. End of public comment. Last one from Ann Matthews. Subject to new voting machines, agenda item 9N. I am asking the committee to pass agenda item 9N. Election machinery needs to be updated periodically to ensure it meets the current needs of the electorate, meets legislative standards, and safeguards the security of each vote. The voters of DuPage County, one of the most desirable counties in Illinois to live or work in, deserves to have updated equipment. End of comment.
Thank you so much. And with that, we move on to Chairwoman's remarks. So I just appreciate everyone's attendance this morning. We have a full agenda. So I'm looking forward to welcoming Sheriff Mendrick and Clerk Kazmarek up for their presentations. So if we can start with Sheriff Mendrick, please welcome.
Thanks for giving us this opportunity today to go over I'm going to start before any of the slides or anything. I just want to go over an overview. It was an extremely busy year. If you go back to 2019, we were just doing about a little over 40,000 calls for service per year. So for 2020 and trending for 2021, we're looking at about 20,000 additional calls. So about a third extra of workload. Was 61,000 last year. We're trending to do about the same this year. So that's added a lot of work. It just become busier. It just has most categories have gone up. COVID remains to be and will continue to be a problem for us. It affected us in a lot of ways. Police academies were closed for almost a year and a half. So now competition is high. We've been doing laterals, but everybody else is doing laterals now too. Signing bonuses, Aurora, I think, is doing 20,000 for signing bonuses. It's hard. We're the second lowest paid police agency in the county. I think Villa Park is the other one less than us. So it makes it harder to attract people. So we're having a fairly large attrition rate too. Everybody who can get out of the job, frankly, there's a lot of pressure on our culture right now. So with the people leaving as fast as they can, I mean, we have people who are retiring who can't collect pensions yet just because they want to get out of the job. So it's frustrating for us in finding new talents in a very competitive market now. I see over the next 2 to 3 years, We're probably gonna have staff reduction, not by choice, but just by availability of bodies to get in the door. We are running low in both of our environments. So that is gonna be another issue that will continue in 2022. But you know what, with all that being said, we've kept COVID in check in our correctional facility, but it's taken a lot of resources too, human resources. We have a vacant floor that has to be manned. The COVID teams that we have, and by the way, we've graduated 94 people in sanitation services, and those are the people who are helping keep COVID out of our correctional facility. So it's a twofer on that. Even cleaning solutions, you have no idea how expensive cleaning solutions are, and what I call Zambonis, these big machines that clean and all this kind of stuff. All that costs, but it's kept COVID out of our jail. And when you think about just the lawsuits that you'd have, having an epidemic within a correctional facility, that saves the county a lot of litigation. There's going to be a continued expense with that until the COVID numbers go down. And I'd also like to thank the health department. They've given us all the guidance and how to keep this in check. We're pretty much in our correctional facility tighter than the school environment because of the style housing that we have in there. I'd like to punctuate too that, we're going on almost 3 years. We still have had no use of force complaints from any citizens. I think that correlates with our going on 6 years of being the leaders in de-escalation training. We're getting close to 800 people trained in de-escalation. I think those numbers crossed a year or two ago to where I think de-escalation became such a commonality in how we use it and practice it. And, after you do 4 or 5 years of something, I think it changes the demeanor of how we just approach people in general. So that's been working out really well. So just want to go over our slides that we have. All of this has been sent to you guys, so I'm not going to just read every slide. It would be very arduous. We just wanted you to have as much information as we could possibly give you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this is just the organizational chart of how we're organized. If you could just go to the next, please. And then this is our administrative bureau. It shows all the services that we have. Next slide. And this is our law enforcement bureau. This is the structure of law enforcement bureau. Go to the next slide. And our corrections bureau, which, as you can see, this org chart is bigger because our corrections bureau is actually half of our population of deputies. There's 200 deputies within the corrections environment, and then 200 combined between court security and patrol. So that's half of our agency. Next slide, please. Again, 3 defined bureaus. You'll note, so 2010, we had 53 more positions. So as you can see over the years, slowly we've been attritioning out positions. I think all of them were during budget reduction scenarios. So we have contributed, but I think right now we're down to the bone. When you look at an agency that's now running 60,000 calls for service versus 40, but have atrophied 53 positions since 2010, I think we're doing a pretty good job. Next slide, please. So this is our Administrative and Support Services Bureau. This is all the stuff basically in the courthouse. It's records, Merit, our countywide response team. And Merit, the biggest thing that we've had this year for Merit of major incidents are fatal accidents. I can't believe the number of fatal motorcycle and car accidents we've had, but I'd say as emergencies go, that's been the most consistent one that we've had. Next slide, please. That's just the Corrections Bureau. Even SWAP, take the Sheriff's Work Alternative Program. Even over the last couple months, they've been on the county campus here, saving thousands of dollars in work, doing the gardening, beautification, a lot of jobs that would cost money for municipalities and the county. So we're doing a summary that we hope to have in the next couple of weeks to see. We're going to try to guesstimate in a layman's manpower hour. If you look at what a routine groundskeeper would be paid, we're going to try to monetize that because we think it's going to be fairly significant, the work that's being done by the Sheriff's Work Alternative Program. Next slide, please. This is a law enforcement bureau. It's a big county, 333 square miles. We have nearly 100,000 residents. The way it works is you have your 36 municipalities and you have the sheriff's office. You have almost 1 million total population. We're about 10% of that. Next slide, please. These are activity measures. This just goes, we're highlighting some. Again, you see crime scenes processed. That's a lot. That is a lot of crime scenes to process over the last couple of years. Detective investigations have climbed. Civil papers have gone through the roof. We've tried to mitigate our jail population as much as we can. And we're currently at 461. And again, you see on the bottom, use of force complaints, we maintain 0. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, you can skip that one, please. Okay, I'm gonna have Deputy Chief Billadu explain these slides.
Good morning, everybody. So in the interest of brevity, and hopefully we can get to the questions and answer portion of our budget, these slides are the slides that were actually presented by finance a couple weeks back. We just wanted to put them in here, really kind of laying out our main accounting units at the sheriff's office. As you guys all know, we have quite a few accounting units that encompass our overall budget, but we wanted to point out really where we were at. When we initially submitted the budget, we were actually about $1 million higher. And we had some great conversations with finance and with Nick, and we were able to talk about a phased in hiring plan for some of the vacancies that we have. So our budget request has actually come down almost $1 million from what we initially submitted to you for your consideration. So this is really just kind of looking at where we're at in FY20, where we're kind of projected to be in FY21, and what we're looking at in FY22. The largest difference that we have is really in our salary lines. Over about 80% of our office is covered by collective bargaining. And because of those collective bargaining agreements, you'll see that those are the numbers that really are going up and up and up. If you could go to the next slide, please. So what we did is we just broke out really the major accounting units. And when you talk about those, we have our 4,400, which is admin. That encompasses what it sounds like, our admin people and our staff that are not assigned to specific other areas within the county or within the sheriff's office. Dispatch, in discussion with finance, we left dispatch in as that 4401 unit. The only thing that is covering is our contract with Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center. So they just thought it'd be easier just to leave that $863,000 there in perpetuity as opposed to trying to absorb it into a different accounting unit. The crime lab, that's one of our areas that has gone up a bit with salaries, just because we have to remain competitive in that market. They are actually doing more and more work every day. It's really encompassing. We have our crime lab director here if there's any questions specifically about that. Next slide, please. Court security is our next major one. Again, if you see the increase there, it's going to be in the salary line. That's going to, the total payroll is the biggest one. They are covered under the MAP collective bargaining agreement. We do have quite a few vacancies there still. We have worked with the county to bring in the CSOs, which is a slightly lower cost of employee, but we still have to have deputies in quite a few positions over in the courthouse, and they are all covered by collective bargaining. So that's where those increases are. 4410 is the jail. As you guys can imagine, with it being the lion's share of our office, that's the biggest portion of our budget. They are also covered by collective bargaining, all the deputies in the jail. That's where you see that total salary line number going up by over $2 million. And that is just directly correlated to collective bargaining expenses for salaries. The other lines are lower, if not just consistent with where we were at before. The next one is our law enforcement bureau. That bureau, again, salary line is the highest because of collective bargaining. It's summertime now. This is where things are picking up. As the sheriff mentioned, merit. Most of the people who are associated with merit in that task force are in law enforcement, from the crash reconstruction to the SWAT call outs that we do in the entire county. So our overtime lines are up a little bit there because of that mutual aid response that we do throughout the entire county. Next slide. So what this slide is we just took all of those and we just put them in just one simple, easy to look at number where each of those budget requests are coming from. Those are our primary units. We do have other little lines here and there that do bring us up to that total $50+ million request, but this is just kind of a general snapshot of the major accounting lines. And what we want to do is, as you guys know, there's probably 30 some slides after this that we've laid out a lot of the things that we do at the office, a lot of really impressive things that we do at the office, but we thought it'd be best to leave that to you guys to read. And if you had any questions, and open it up now for questions for us. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any questions for the sheriff? Member Pachowski, go ahead.
You had indicated we are the second lowest in DuPage County of police departments for starting officers.
Correct. Second lowest out of the 36 municipalities.
All right, and I know when I first got on the board, we were the second lowest. Again, only COD police paid lower.
I remember
was
that.
a big issue, and I don't know how we address it. But what was the last time we raised it up? Because I don't want to be the highest. I want to be a little bit in the middle or at the middle. This has got to, is this a major problem with you? And what would be more equitable as far as where we start these people, because I think being on the bottom end is not getting the candidates that I would want in DuPage County.
Yeah, I don't think it was as critical before as it is now. Yeah, we're worried now in this competitive market of a shortage of policemen and people courting policemen with signing bonuses and stuff like that. But I will say that the county has been working with us and talking about maybe doing some form of signing bonus. I know collective bargaining is beginning with MAP now. So yes, I would definitely hope that we could get a higher starting rate is really what we need to attract new employees. It's what you get hired at, and that's where we're second lowest.
Can you give me a copy of what all the other towns in DuPage and COD police are paying to see who's high and who's low?
Yeah, please. Part of what the sheriff was talking about us trying to put together a lateral entry program idea is we're doing that right now. I contacted the DuPage County Chiefs of Police. There has not been a formal salary survey done in years. So we're really looking to see but by comparison, the Aurora Police Department is offering a $20,000 signing bonus. The Elk Grove Police Department is offering a $10,000 signing bonus. And they're really getting the people who are wanting to leave some of the smaller police departments and that to come out here. They're getting them all. They're trained. You don't have to pay for the academy. You don't have to pay your training program is shortened. The time of benefits and salary is compressed with that. So that is something we're looking at, and we do want to bring that to JPS, but the sheriff is correct. Our starting salary is very, very low for
So I would
deputies.
expect to get
in patrol.
something from you that not only includes salary and benefits, but signing bonuses and things like that within the next 60 days or something.
The PowerPoint is nearly done.
All right, thank you.
And could you please send that out to all the board members? That would be great. Yes, thank you. Okay, member Ozak, then member Krajewski. Oh, and then member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sheriff Mendrick, you mentioned academies being closed and lateral hires. Do you have any predictions? What's the status right now about?
Yeah,
these
so, you know,
academies being reopened?
What we're also worried about too, we've had an employer to leave that were new because when they open up these signing bonuses, if you only have 6 months or a year on it, it's very attractive that, hey, I could just go to a different police department and, you know, start with a $20,000 signing bonus, a higher top pay. So it's really hard. I think this is stress and pressure every police agency is feeling right now. You know, we're poaching from each other. Everybody's opened up laterals. What our fear is that there's not going to be enough candidates simply to fill all the vacancies. What COVID did was it closed down an academy cycle for almost 1.5 years. So now the waiting lists are huge. You know, we're hoping to get 3 through this year. But it's going to be limited seats. That's why laterals have become so important, because that's a way to get somebody in without having to go through the academy. But again, I think every police agency that I've seen now has switched to start doing laterals.
And if I can ask, who runs police academies? Is it?
We work with,
how does that
we run it
structure?
all through the College of DuPage. It's
College
CELIA,
of
the
DuPage.
Suburban Law Enforcement Academy. We do everything through
So
them.
they're reopened, but backlogged.
Correct.
Okay.
And, you know, and that's the scary part too. You never know when positivity rates could go up again and all of a sudden it could be frozen again, because we've had that go back and forth too. It's an unsure climate right now, and it's the training aspect, getting people into because you got to figure it's physical tactics, it's being close proximity with people. Academies they're a tight knit group when they go through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Krajewski, then we'll have member Zay and then member Shorzy.
Thank you. My question was the same as Member Pachowski. When you mentioned that Phillip Park was the lowest behind us, I just wanted to see a list of all the municipalities
Yeah.
with their pay for their different levels.
We've had that.
Thank you.
You go, member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, you said with the academies being down, the dovetail of that, how many deputies are you down right now between corrections and patrol and detectives?
I believe we're 10. We're down 10 deputies right now.
Okay, so you need at least 10.
Yeah, and we do have scheduled retirements on the books too. See, that's I guess the challenge for us. Oh, was it 12? 12, I'm sorry, 12. The challenge is as we're trying to fill these positions, people are leaving. And, you know, it's like running in a slippery slope. It's been a challenge.
Thank you.
Member Shorzy.
Thank you, Sheriff. You mentioned, this is following along with the member Polchowski's questions. Collective bargaining is going on right now, or when does that current contract expire?
The MAP contract expires in about a year. We'll be starting to renegotiate with them, and PBLC is also coming up soon for the
Okay.
corrections deputy.
Okay, so we have a year to kind of get some of these numbers that you're talking about and
Yes.
work from that point. Thank you.
Trustee, Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. Quick question for you, Sheriff. I'm frustrated for you guys for your, the lack of, or the frustration with getting good sheriffs there. I was looking at your other information you gave us, and I am, as you know, a huge supporter of JUST, as I know you are also. And I do see that there is a, looks like a $400,000 line item here for JUST. And I'm just wondering, like, how many officers are assigned on a regular basis? Because I think those training programs are so important for the people so that they don't repeat and come back, so they actually have a future ahead of them. So I'm just wondering if there's any officers that are assigned so they can continue on a regular basis.
Yeah, so I believe that 400,000 number is the contractual obligation that we pay for JUST. What we get with JUST is we get all the rehabilitative services. They run about 70 classes a week. Some of their work has just been astounding, the vocational programs, sanitation. COD has been supportive now for our horticulture, and they're going to be helping with our welding. That's college credits as well as experience and certifications for job training. We don't have our final numbers yet, but recidivism numbers in heroin use have dropped from 90 to almost 20% in people going through our programming. So we're starting to see the actual work they do. There's deputies assigned to JUST every day. I believe there's 8. So we heavily support JUST. And that's, I'll be truthfully as honest as I can about the cost and the way it works. The reason it does cost extra to run JUST programs is simply the fact that when we're doing all these programs, they still have to be guarded. So I need deputies to watch the activities while they're doing them. That's where the cost comes in for people. That's why we need them. But JUST has been very successful. Probably one of our most successful programs that we've had. We're starting to see the fruition of it through lower recidivism numbers. That's the targets that we look at, the measuring sticks that we look at. Again, we probably will feed another 4,000 pounds of food from the horticulture program too. So it's a benefit to society.
I just wanted to thank you so much for that work and for everything, because I think it's great. I know there's a tattoo removal program now so that gang members can get out of there. So I just think it's something that we really have to support as a board here and help the sheriff continue that work.
And I would like to thank you for all your support and help through the process. You've taken interest in it. You've come out and seen our site, and we do appreciate that very much.
Yes, thank you, Member Garcia. Member Schwarze.
Sorry, one more question. Follow up on the MAP contract. What does this contract say that the cost of living raise or whatever? What's their raise coming up for next year?
They're called step raises. The steps go about 2.5%, and steps come annually.
Okay, thank you.
Member Renahan, then Member Desart.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Deputy Chief Bilodeau, Chief Bendrick, always nice to see you. Question on the patrol pay survey. I do appreciate you bringing up, and I do see that I think only Villa Park is paid lower for beginning. But I'm looking at also at top pay. We are in the top tier for top pay. And we have 18 steps, which is definitely on the higher end of steps. I think there was one that had 35 Bartlett. Okay, how do we figure this out? How does this affect pay?
Well, and you can take, I think Aurora might be 3 steps or 5. So yeah, you got to understand, you have to look at it through the eyes of a recruit. They're looking at the top pay. They want to have as much starting pay as they can. And obviously they want to move as fast as they can, but we're in a society today where people want the top dollar they can get when they start. So starting pays have become significant. Like I said, I think before, when we had the commodity of people and have no, pressure on us for staffing, I think there was more options where people would say, well, I'd rather start lower and I have more mobility to move up in a sheriff's office or something like that. But nowadays we're seeing people seeking top dollar. That's even the signing bonuses. That's a new one on us. That's showing a different dynamic in hiring. So it is a starting pay that's going to directly affect how we get recruits.
I guess my question is, going the 18 levels, I mean, does that help us or hurt us financially in terms of how we promote people and how. it
Yeah,
works.
the fewer steps, the more attractive our agency would look. Because like I said, with Aurora being like 5 steps, that's significantly less, and people do look at that too.
You, Member Desart and then Member Chavez.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations, and we're so supportive of you. We've been supportive of you. The creative and forward-thinking activities that you've brought to the sheriff's office, you and you alone have brought, like just JPS Chairwoman Brennahan and I went out and saw the Just program in the garden, and those are creative things
And I have to
that
credit
you
Mike Berry
brought-
too.
that
Mike
you
Berry's great.
brought to the program. So thank you, and we continue to support our sheriff's office.
Thank you. I do appreciate your support of our programming. I really do.
Member Chavez, then Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you just give me some idea of the structure of the current signing bonuses that we have? What does it look like?
We currently don't have a signing bonus. So-
Okay,
So
what are
we're-
we
that's something
looking at
that
doing?
we were talking about with finance. We're talking about how we can structure that overall program. And then we were going to try to bring a presentation to JPS to lay it out so that you guys were fully aware of what we were trying to accomplish with that.
Okay, great. I misunderstood that. Are you looking at close by models that are currently doing that? I think you mentioned Aurora, a couple others.
Yeah, so the way Aurora models it is it's a signing bonus, but you don't get it at once. You get it, I think it's 2 years. I think you have to commit to 2 years.
Okay.
And then I think you get signing bonus upon completion of training. So it would be a model like that because you don't want to give someone a signing bonus and give them the ability to go get another job somewhere else and get another signing bonus or something like that. So there has to be some kind of time commitment. I would even consider maybe doing a 3-year commitment. If you're going to do a signing bonus, you want to make sure you're going to retain that person.
Wonderful, thank you.
Excuse me, Member Ozog, Member Krajewski, then Member DeCiani.
Just one more question about training. Is it correct that you have to be hired by a department and then they send you to the academy at COD? Is that the way it works?
Well, there's 2 scenarios. The way we've gotten around that is if we do laterals, we're getting somebody that has to at least have 2 years in a department with a letter of good standing. So that means they've been through the academy, they're in
Right.
good standing and they're done with training. So those are criteria of a lateral. If you don't have police experience, you got to go to the door, you got to go apply, then you have to go to the police academy.
So we send people, and all the other departments in DuPage are sending people to that one training source.
Yeah, I would say
Basically.
the majority, I think probably I'd go as far to say 90-95% of this county's academy recruits go to Suburban Law Enforcement Academy at COD.
Okay, thank you.
Member Krajewski.
Yeah, just again, back on the entry level officers. I know back a long time ago when I was mayor and some of the guys rolling off that were retiring, that were sergeants, lieutenants, they started right out of high school. Then the village put in, you need a college degree, or you need a certain amount of college education before you can come in as a starter. A lot of these kids are coming out at 18, especially over the last 20 years, have been going into the military, have no education. I'm not sure what your starting requirements are in some of these other municipalities, but we have some people that maybe don't have 30 hours of college or a year of college or 4 years, but yet could come in and do it. They may have military training, tours overseas. So I'm not sure what your entry level is.
We give military points. We don't. Well, Dan, you wanna? You're more involved in this one.
We have the 2-year degree.
60 credit hours is what we require. And we want to be careful because, again, with not having any use of force complaints from any citizens, that's showing that the type of employee that we're getting in is coming in and being trained the proper way and in keeping all of the policies and procedures. That's the only thing I very careful about lowering qualifications because when you're having success with the model, you don't want to change it and then possibly bring in, because truth be told, that's another problem with pay is that if you're lower paid, you're going to get a lower quality of candidate. It's just that simple.
Okay, thank you. Member DeCiani, then Member Desart, and then Member Hart.
I think you mentioned Member Ozog wanted to speak before me, or was she? Oh, she did. Okay, I just want to make sure I give her the courtesy. So Sheriff, we want to support you however we can, and we know these times are probably tougher than any, not only from doing the job, but to recruiting, as you're seeing. I'm talking to my mayors and we normally get 400 people to apply for a test. And sometimes these mayors are seeing as low as 30. 40.
That's what we're seeing.
So when you had 400 applying for a test, you get the cream of the crop. You get the best of the best. We've got folks with master's degrees and attorneys working for us in some of our suburbs. When you're dealing with 30 or 40 and you're talking about maybe lowering your standards, that's where we come into some challenges. So I think the laterals are smart. I think what's happening in Chicago right now is
Written a lot of those guys.
challenging from, Oak Brook just hired 4 Chicago PDs in my district. The Addison just hired 6. So this is happening. The police officers in Chicago are not happy with their leadership and they don't feel they have support from the mayor and they're leaving. So I say we do whatever we need to do to attract those folks. And
That's where we're gaining most of our new deputies is from the Cook County Correctional Facility and the Cook County Sheriff's Office and Chicago Police. A lot of people have migrated here. We're getting some good quality officers.
And my concern is we've already cut this office, against my wishes, but this office has been trimmed down heavily. We went from 550 to 492.
Yes, you're right.
So you're already working with less than what you need.
And 20,000 more calls per service, roughly a year over the last 2 years.
Right. So I know I want to do whatever I can to support you and support your budget, support your challenges with headcount and manpower. Love to see those special ops get put back on because I know it's important. We've seen such a huge increase in violent crime, carjackings, car thefts, home invasions than we've ever seen before. It's like the criminals are emboldened right now. So I support you and we'll do whatever we can to give you the tools that you need to succeed. And I think it's important at any time today. So thank you.
Member Desart and then Member Hart.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're pretty lucky, Sheriff, to have a board that's so supportive of you.
I
Looking at
agree.
all the other counties in Illinois and sheriff's offices. I just wanted to add that, we want to give you the tools that you need to be successful. We want to do that. So please let us know how we can do that. Like, for example, today was the first day I heard that Aurora was giving $20,000 signing bonuses. I didn't realize that. I mean, I've seen, $500 signing bonuses at Culver's, but I had no idea.
We were
that
shocked
other-
with that one too.
So I'm just saying, you've got to let this board know what you need so that we can provide it for you.
Thank you. I
All right,
will.
Thank you.
Member Hart, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. And I just want to echo what Member Desart said. Sheriff, you're doing a great job making us all proud here in DuPage County. I know I support your budget request and look forward to working with you to make sure we're putting forward ourselves in a way that attracts the best talent. Member DeCiani actually touched on a point that I was going to ask about, but for our experienced hires, obviously the city of Chicago is kind of hemorrhaging some of their staff. Where are some of our other sources of recruitment for our experienced hires? Both currently and what we think might be possible moving forward.
In all honesty, we're with laterals. We are getting people who are coming from different parts of the state, other municipalities in the area, Chicago. I would say predominantly the most we've seen are Cook County agencies, not only Chicago and the sheriff's office, but like I know Bellwood, we've gotten a couple people from recently, and some of the suburbs of Cook County are generating a lot of our laterals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hart. Does any other members have any questions for the sheriff? Okay, I just have a couple questions and comments. So thank you so much for your presentation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your work with staff, with finance, getting that hiring plan brought down by $1 million. That's really very encouraging. I really appreciate that. Just a couple questions. The service calls, I'm really interested in that. So you're up, you have quite a few more service calls. So can you kind of give us a little description of what those calls entail? Are they more like mental health issues or
That's a good
domestic
question.
abuse,
Mental
domestic
health
abuse?
issues have gone up a lot. Domestics have gone up a lot. I guess the easiest way to say it, almost every category of our calls for service have gone up.
Okay.
We can get you a stat sheet that'll show, like which ones are predominant. But pretty much all of our crime categories have gone up since it really started with COVID.
Okay.
That created a societal change. It really did.
Yeah, and that's what I was curious to see, where those areas
That's
are
where
going
that's
up.
where it spiked.
And that also, your corrections is half of your staff, so that's pretty interesting. Now in the jail, I know your staff has been reduced, but I know now you have all these, not your staff, the number of inmates has gone considerably down, but now you're dealing with more service calls. And I know, you're going out now to Wayne to help them out in the
Mhm.
evening. So how is your staff dealing with all the added pressures because you're down staff, but you still have to perform these jobs? So how is the morale or the how are your employees dealing with all of this? Are they doing okay or?
They're doing phenomenal. I have to credit our deputies in all three bureaus. Corrections, what champs. I mean, it's hard to wear a mask for 12 hours inside a correctional facility for a shift. So, and they do that every day. They've been managing well. There is stress on them because when these shifts go uncovered, it is overtime and then there's a burnout ratio. And people get fatigued, tired. We're managing that as best we can. But it's tough. We're in a tough environment right now. I think corrections has been a little bit easier for us to get recruits though than patrol. Patrol seems to be suffering a little worse than corrections. But no, they're managing, but yes, we're extremely short. COVID changed our jail so much. I can't believe how much COVID changed our jail. I mean, it's a correctional facility with, again, 500 people. You have 200 employees and then about 130 contractual workers and volunteers that come in and out every day. It has been one of my main sources of stress is worrying about an outbreak in that environment. But we have been luckier than pretty much everybody else, but we get scared all the time. We've had at least 10 people sent to us on different occasions that were COVID positive that we had to put right into negative pressure. And that, again, credit to the deputies who screen this. We have a great medical staff. Our nursing staff has helped catch these and screen them before they got into general population, saved us outbreaks every time.
Yeah, and you've done a great job keeping COVID down. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we heard from the state's attorney and, I think they needed 18 assistant state attorneys. But Mr. Berlin said, realistically, we're not gonna be able to hire 18, right, in that year because just can't do it. I know you said you're down 12 deputies right now. Realistically, what do you think the number of deputies is that you can hire this year? Do you have any ideas? I mean,
we're in a new day and age. I've never had a deputy come up and say, I'm going to leave at 19 years and not make money for a year because I want out. So if that continues, and I'll be honest, there's a thing out there called qualified immunity. And I'd like to explain qualified immunity just so everybody, I think people think it's some odd protection that we have. Qualified immunity, I can only tell you from a patrolman's viewpoint because that's what I've done for 25 years. If I get a call, a check of well-being, and I see somebody down, it looks like in the living room, and I kick the door open and splinter it apart, and I go in, and I turn the person over, and I do chest compressions, maybe accidentally crack a rib, but save the person's life. I'm now liable for the smashed door and the cracked ribs. Qualified immunity, that's what that is. You're only qualified for immunity if you're following all of the proper rules, procedures, laws, ordinances. So we don't get any special dispensation by qualified immunity, but that one is the boogeyman that everybody's afraid of in the police culture. When they hear that they could be liable and have to carry malpractice insurance would be the alternative. That is something that's a chilling effect that we're having. So we're trying to get through things like that and still, keep people in the positions they're in and not get scared out of them. But if something like that does come, the problem that we're having now will exacerbate tenfold. That's the one that everybody's watching. I would say we could lose 40% of our staff within a year if that one item goes through.
okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. We just got this morning, so I'm going to look it over. If I have any questions, or I would encourage the board, if you have any questions or comments to.
Yeah, not
please
only
contact
questions or
you
comments, I want to open our doors to all of you too.
Yeah.
If anybody wants tours, anything that we have, anything that we talk about, I want to show you all what we're doing. I'm very proud of the programming that we have. I think we're doing an extremely good job, a professional job. So any one of you that wants to come in for a full tour of any area, it would be my pleasure.
Yep. Highly recommended. It's very interesting. And also, yeah, shout out to Mike Berry too and all the great work he's doing over at Just. So
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming. Okay, and then next on our agenda, we have our county clerk, Jean Kazmarek. Welcome, Jean.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. The first slide may seem familiar to you because it was prepared last year. We just changed the dates. Again, little has changed on the traditional county clerk side. We're requesting a 2% cost of living increase for regular salaries. Expenditure requests remain flat. Transaction volume and revenue are expected to increase from still delayed marriages and real ID documents. We are continuing to make system upgrades to expand online and remote access with the public. Now let's turn to the election division. Here's a breakdown of actual expenditures from our 2020 and 2021 budgets and our 2022 budget request. As you're aware, expenses vary from year to year based on the election cycle. The most voter turnout is during presidential years, and the second most voter turnout is during midterm years, which is reflected in the numbers before you. Here are some of the reasons why elections will require a funding increase in 2022. Next year will feature 2 elections, both with higher turnout than 2021's single election. SB 825 has expanded election administration duties and made permanent one-time changes in 2020, making next year's gubernatorial election year far more expensive than 2018. Mail voting is here to stay and is expected to be big in 2022. We are mandated to send each voter a mailer allowing the opportunity to be placed on a permanent vote by mail list. In addition, we will be required to set up a central vote center on election day, which would accommodate all voters throughout the county. Our biggest budget ask is what I've stood here and asked for in the past, a pay increase for our most precious resource, election judges. Our judges are paid $130 for a daily stipend, lower than any county in our region, with no pay raise in over 20 years. In 2020, we doubled their pay to $260 using CARES funding to supplement. We have set a target for our election judge pay increase to $250 per day. So now that I've discussed the higher level issues of elections in 2022, I'm going to discuss the most significant need outside the budget, voting equipment. On May 11th, I came before the Finance Committee for support to move forward with the RFP for a new voting system in DuPage. I said that the system would replace the optical scan equipment purchased 20 years ago, the touchscreen equipment purchased 16 years ago, and that we were notified that after 2021, our existing equipment would no longer be licensed. I added that we anticipated the cost to be between $10 and $11 million. Over the past 3 months, the county clerk's office undertook the task of making one of the most crucial decisions for DuPage County, the selection of a new voting system. We took the responsibility of selecting a new voting system conscientiously and enthusiastically. Vendors responded to our detailed, comprehensive request for proposal. 3 companies met our high standards. We invited each of the finalists to make all-day formal presentations to the election division staff in June. We invited the chairman and all county board members to attend these presentations. We listened. We asked endless questions. We kept our minds open. We checked everything over from the perspectives of our staff, the election judges, but above all, the voters. We placed our hands all over the equipment, shut our eyes to check ADA compliance for the visually impaired, carried it, shook it, folded it away in our supply cabinet, set it back up, not too gently, tested high-speed mail ballot scanners with crumpled ballots smeared with coffee and chocolate, and attempted to fool the machinery every way we could imagine, undervoting, overvoting, not voting, and missing those ovals altogether.
We followed up on referrals provided in the RFPs and spoke to large jurisdiction customers from around the country. We made site visits to 4 counties, Cook, Lake, McHenry, and St. Louis. Our election staff talked with their election staff from every direction of their systems. And we work closely with our county's procurement department every step of the way. Eventually, our 7-member election staff team reviewed everything and narrowed down the finalists to 1. We invited that company back for even more scrutiny. By the end of the day, all of us were convinced we had arrived at the best choice for our county. Today, we're pleased to announce that our choice is Verity with Hart Intercivic. Hart, in the election business for over 100 years, 780 customers in 19 states, high ratings with 94% retention of customers, and 98% of customers rating their service as excellent or above average in 2020. A 5-year-old system. The only Illinois certified vendor to meet the FFSG 1.1 standard by the Election Assistance Commission. Verity is described as a next generation system, and we believe it. The Verity print is Hart's on-demand ballot printer. For the first time, DuPage will be able to print a ballot for any voter at any polling place. The Verity Touch Writer allows full range ADA compliance, which also prints out a ballot. The Verity Scan is a digital scanning solution which allows audits of voter intent. Absolutely no comparison with our 20-year-old scanners. Here's a quick list of other Verity features. Digital captures of all scanned ballots. Automatic counting for write-ins. Ranked choice voting capability. Risk limiting audit capability. Fast, reliable recounts, and multiple language options. We anticipate every aspect of operations to become more efficient. Quicker startup and shutdown for election judges. Quicker lines in polling places. Hart will integrate well with our no-wink poll pads with no additional certification required. We were particularly impressed with Verity's security. No remote access software on any of their equipment. Printed ballot tracking to ensure accountability. Data stored in multiple redundant locations. External cards or drives cannot be inserted. There's a 2-factor authentication using passwords and USB keys, and all sensitive data is encrypted always. Hart is the only voting system of the 3 manufactured and assembled in the USA. Above all, the one feature of the Hart voting system which stands out, and I've been waiting to say these words for 16 years. DuPage County will have 100% paper ballots. All ballots will be identical, be it mail, early, or day of, at last. Our office has full confidence in the choice of the Verity system by Hart InterCivic. I request the board to move forward with this purchase. And P.S., my staff and I wish to thank Nick Cockmeyer, Mary Catherine Wells, and Jeff Martinowitz for their help in pulling this project together. And a very special thank you to DuPage's procurement buyer, Valerie Calvente, who worked with our department closely from day one, making sure every step of the process was done correctly. Madam Chair?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jean. Do we have any questions or comments for the clerk? Member Krajewski, go ahead, please.
Thank you. At the beginning of your presentation, you listed 8 million for approximately for 2020, 3.5 for 21, and then we're requesting 7.5 million for this election cycle. Can you just let me know, I don't need now, but how much 2018, the last gubernatorial was? Because I think you referenced that there is a bigger increase from 18 due to Senate Bill 825.
I don't have that figure.
I don't need it.
in front of me,
I
but
just
I'll
get it to me.
send it to you after the meeting.
And I assume, a little bit of inflation, but the bigger increase for whatever we had in 18 governor race, it's a Senate bill, as you said, 825 is the reason why, just extra work we have to do that was mandated.
Well, that and the fact that popularity of vote by mail is increasing tremendously. And right now, in the state of Illinois, it feels like we're running 2 elections side by side. We're running a complete vote by mail operation and the traditional polling
then-
place operation.
I fully support your increase in judge pay if that's what's in there, the 250. I know that's what you want to get to, but I'm fully supportive of that. And then the last thing, the voting machines. When you guys did your, I guess, scoring qualifications, scoring, it looks like it's an 80-point scoring. Who determined that? And how much is allocated to project understanding, key qualifications, and firm qualifications?
Well, the staff, we had a 7-member election staff that did the scoring.
No, I know there's a 7-member staff that's going, but who determined that 50 points are going to be for project understanding, 20 points for key qualifications, and 10 points for firm qualifications? Who made the determination on how many points for each of those categories? Who put that together?
I think it was just a collaborative effort.
Oh, Jeff,
Okay, so Jeff, you put that together. Okay, procurement put that together. Because in a number of these that I look at, they also have, and I think we did that for code reviews when we were looking at that. I remember cameras when we were looking at that. The pricing is a portion of it. If it's a 100-point score, sometimes they'll add 10 points to pricing, maybe 20 points to pricing out of 100 points. And I've seen that from procurement. So the determination was not to, we have project understanding 50 points, key qualifications 20 points, firm qualifications 10 points. So it was 80-point scale. But I've seen a lot of times where pricing is put in, maybe if this was 80 points, maybe it's 90 points and 10 points is pricing. So why was pricing not included in this particular one where I've seen it across a lot of spectrums? It's just a small portion. It's not, maybe it's 10%, 15%, 20% of the overall score. And I went through this once with Kukolich, and the determination of the scoring, nobody knew how that was done, and we had to redo it. But why wasn't pricing part of it? Whoever, procurement, somebody from procurement here, Mobile here?
No, both are Valerie's not with us this morning, but our scoring was a collaborative method with the clerk's office.
No, I know the scoring. I want to know why procurement didn't put pricing in, and then we can get that answer to me later.
Yeah.
Because pricing, like I said, I've seen pricing as a small portion of it. But then when I look at the scoring here, I got Hart, and election systems software and Dominion, one got 76 out of 80, one got 75 out of 80, and one got 74 out of 80. And then this other one was way into 60. So I mean, all three of them were very close. And then in the second round, looked like they scored Hart and election systems 1-1. So these are really close, where if pricing was a small component of it, I think the scores flip. You know, they both, all three of them got 10 out of 10 on firm qualification. So clearly they're all qualified. Everybody felt they were qualified on firm qualifications. Key qualifications, Hart and election commissions are both 19 out of 20. The Dominion was 18. And then project understanding, that was just out of 50 points. Hart got 48, election systems got 47, and Dominion 46. RBM got 40. So clearly they were, you know, out of it. So it was very close, it looked like. And like I said, I've seen pricing. I'd like to know from procurement why they determined pricing wasn't even a small factor in this evaluation. So if I get that information back, I don't, you guys don't need to sit here since procurement's not here.
I'm sorry, Valerie called
Oh,
today. She's
Okay,
the head buyer that was in charge. She is here.
okay, so she's here. So how
Welcome,
come in this
Valerie.
particular one, we didn't use just a small portion for pricing?
So
Okay.
20% is pricing, 20 points was allocated to pricing, but this was a little bit different.
But I
When
don't
we
see it
started the
here.
RFP process, procurement does score pricing, but we looked at, our RFP goes a little bit longer. We really want to make sure that everyone is qualified to be at the table. They have the right project that they're recommending to the county. And we took that as an overall first to look at it. So we did have 4 vendors that did submit submittals for responses. We chose 3 to come to visit us on site. And that was mainly based off of their project understanding. Do they have the right items that we're looking for to bring to the board? So the other 20% we did take back because we also asked each vendor who did present to submit a best and final offer as well. So that is not in there, but it was done by procurement.
So I got a score 76, 75, 74. I got 3 that are out of 80 that are like right there. But somehow pricing was factored in, but it's not in here. But
No, we
at-
looked at pricing, but pricing, when we received the first submittals, we asked everyone for pricing. But that was not the final pricing. We did ask for best and final pricing afterwards. And we also asked for each vendor to come in. It is very hard to score pricing in this particular situation.
No, it's not.
Well, yes, we can do the pricing because it is based off of the lower score. If we did the lower score, it will still be approximately, I think, a 1-point difference.
Because they're all equal in pricing? I mean, if you give, because like I said, I've seen a lot of these where you got your three categories. A lot of times I've seen 4 or 5 and you allocate the points, and pricing's always in there for a small percentage, 10 points, 15 points out of 100. This case
Correct.
So-
20%, 20 points would have been given
Okay,
to
so-
ES&S.
So if we put 20 points in here for pricing, I got a 76, 75, 74. Now, if I get all the pricing, if Hart or Dominion, or the election systems in Dominion is a lot cheaper, they're gonna get a higher score on the pricing. They're gonna flip over Hart, and now they're gonna be the number 1. Again, I don't see pricing in here. That was my question, why it wasn't in there. And because they were so close. If they weren't close, pricing wouldn't factor in, but I mean, they're all qualified. They seem like key qualifications. 2 of them are tied. Project understanding is just a minor difference out of a 50. There's a 48, 47, where, again, if I see the pricing, that would flip one over. So I'm a little why that wasn't there. And then the only other question I had is, it looks like everybody around us is using all 3 systems. So we had McHenry and Lake using election systems. You have Cook using Dominion. And it says that we have Kane County using Hart. I was surprised, why you didn't do a site visit to Kane? We went down to St. Louis.
Kane uses an older model, the Hart E-Slate. We are not purchasing the Hart E-Slate.
Okay, they're an older model.
Yes.
What are all the other references that you called via phone? Are they using the one we're looking at, or are they using older models too?
No, we only talk to customers that were using, the larger jurisdictions that were using the models that we were considering.
Well, except it says Kane in here.
Well, we were looking at customer service
Okay.
with Kane.
So, but the other one, St. Louis, Oakland, Harris, Orange,
Yes.
Tarrant, and Hamilton, they all use the one
Yes.
we're looking at. Okay, that makes sense why you went down there. All right, that's my only question is to me,
Member Kuzi, I just wanted to respond to your questions about the scoring, just to clarify that process, which might not be clear on the actual sheet that you received.
yeah,
So those first round scores, what is it, 76, 75, 74?
right,
Those were scored by our review team on the initial look at
Submittal, right.
the written submittals. So
Right.
that was our review team, and we didn't receive pricing. Our staff reviewed just the written submittals to assess, does this look like a company that we would move forward with in the process?
Sure.
So the fairly even scores there were partially a result of, all we had in front of us were written proposals. This looks good. This looks like they understand what we're looking for. They look like a reputable company. We'll move forward with them. There was pricing that, as Valerie said, was received in those initial submittals. That pricing was no longer applicable by the end of the process because we had best and final offers from all three vendors. And then the subsequent scoring rounds, we no longer were scoring them by points. We were ranking them as a staff, like first, second, third. So yes, at the second round, we had 2 of the 3 finalists that were the leading contenders after the second round. And then by the third round, the staff had decided on Hart of the top pick. So hopefully that makes at least what the numbers are referring to.
sure, I saw that, and then it gets to the third round, and then you did 1, 2. And that's why these things are so close. That's why I'd like, if I could just see the total cost and I guess the best and final, whatever all 3 of these submitted, because if there's a large difference between 2 of them, they're so darn close. Okay.
Sure, the best and final pricing you have there is what they submitted.
That was,
But that also doesn't include that various systems have additional supplementary costs that would add on to the total cost of the system, but you'd have to purchase materials from outside sources. So it's not entirely apples to apples, the total all-in costs of purchasing the 2 systems.
and the last question maybe for somebody is just on this election systems, the software, because it was so close, there was one comment in here that said did not have ballot uniformity across all methods of voting. What is that? What is that? Or is that the absentee? Well, you explain it to me.
Right. Well, Hart does have ballot uniformity, and that means that every single ballot, be it mail, early voting, or day of, will look exactly the same, and they'll be handled the same way.
And this election systems one did not have, I think there was a comment that was in here, did not have uniformity. So they would be a different ballot if you did absentee versus
Right.
early voting versus day of.
Yes,
They would be different. Are they 100% paper too?
yes, they are paper, but it's a completely different ballot.
Each ballot, that's okay.
Mhm.
Did Lake and McHenry raise that as an issue?
No, but it is ideal to have every ballot exactly the same and to handle it the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have member Ozog, member Pachowski, and then member DeCiani. Okay, go ahead, member Ozog.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, in your general survey, let's just talk about collar counties. What is the usual replacement time frame? Because you talked about 20 and 15 years since we've replaced our equipment. Is that extraordinary in terms of what usually happens?
Well, I'm not sure that the collar counties are the best to look at for what's ideal. Generally, these machines should be replaced about every 10 years. We do have the oldest by far, but Will is due and Kane. The machines that are in Lake and McHenry are newer.
Okay. And the other systems, for instance, Kane, you said that theirs was not the same model that you're looking at. Are you
Right.
talking 4 or 5 years difference? And
I
this
think that
is-
theirs was purchased in the 2000s,
Okay,
early-
so maybe 10 years.
mid,
something like that.
more like
Okay.
15, I think.
And you explained about 100% paper and uniformity between all types of ballots.
Mhm.
That was something that Hart was offering,
Yes.
not the others. or at least?
Not ballot uniformity, no.
Okay. And also, I'm interested in USA Made, because one of the issues we've dealt with in the last 8 to 10 months since the last election, interference from China, all sorts of conspiracy theories, et cetera. They are United States made, United States inspected. There's a quality control process, start to finish, that sort of thing in terms of construction security, and then also security once we would receive the machines. Does that?
Right.
And that is, are the others made in America, or components are made in America, or was that hard to discern?
Not to the same degree as Hart.
So it was not 100% manufactured in America.
Right. There are a few components that just are never made in the USA,
Yes. I
but
mean, boards, et cetera.
most, right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to have member Bachowski, and then we're going to have member DeCiani, then we're going to have member Eckhoff, member Rutledge, and member Zay.
Thank you. I just think, is something, I know we need equipment, I'm all for it. I'll be honest with you. I talked to Liz this morning, I said, I have a problem. I don't see a $5.3 million difference between Hart and then election system. And are we better off doing a 5-year contract? So my opinion is, I think pricing is something that I would have to take a look at, and double the price at 5.3 million for a difference of a paper ballot. To me, I'd rather save the taxpayers some money. And are we better off doing a 5-year contract as technology changes? And could I get more information as to why I should say yes to 10.6 and no to 5.3? Because I'm not hearing that.
Well, if the board wants to buy us new equipment in 5 years, I'd be in favor of it, but we've gone 20 years with this equipment, so I'm not optimistic with that we're gonna get a new system in 5 years. We did look at a lot of features with Hart, and I can't begin to stand here and list them all. Above all, there's the ballot uniformity, and it was made in the USA. That's easiest to explain here. That's about the best I can do. But I believe that DuPage deserves the best, and this is the system that we stand by.
Thank you. Member DeCiani?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also have an issue, if we're going to, if we were going to strictly do this based on, it sounds like all of these vendors are qualified, I'm wanting, once you do an RFP, you're kind of in a position to have to go with the most competitive price. I could see advantages of having different types of ballots for vote by mail and for election day and for early voting. Because if you're looking at discovering which of, if there's a recount and you want to look at one particular ballot type, and you have a ballot uniformity that shows all those ballots being the same type, I can't segregate the vote by mail, the early vote, and the election day vote. So from that standpoint, I see a flaw in that. I'd almost rather go with one that has a different vote by mail ballot versus an election day ballot, so that if we are looking in a recount situation at those vote by mails, there's no confusion if they're vote by mail or if they're at election day. So, and when I look at almost double the cost, and I look at a sheriff that's down almost 70 men and women, I want to give you the tools to succeed, but I also have to balance that on the budget that we're dealing with and money that we're dealing with and other requests that we have in the area of public safety. So these are, again, this is the first time we're seeing this. And it sounds like we have 4 qualified bidders to do the job based on the fact that they're here at the table and that you've requested from them. And obviously, I'm sure if we looked at election systems and looked at their portfolio of clients, they would have counties that represent similar aspects to what we are as DuPage County. So those are my concerns. If you can, again, those are things that we need to weigh out. And I don't necessarily know if ballot uniformity is really the answer here, and if it's worth $5.3 million to have that. And as a citizen advocate, if I'm questioning the integrity of a vote by mail ballot, and they're identical, how do we separate those? And, you know, that those are key things. I don't necessarily know if that uniformity is really the answer. It justifies a 5.3. I almost would rather pay extra for a separate ballot so that we know for sure if we're have concern over a certain part of the election, we can pinpoint that and get to the bottom of what the issue is. Thank you.
Our procedures are very careful. We keep everything separated. And it's best to have uniformity because that means that every ballot has equal protection under the law. And any advocate would tell you that. And that's one of the issues we had to deal with time and time again with the TSX machine, because they were just treated completely different than other ballots. And we won't have that anymore. And it took us 3 months to carefully go through this process. I think the thing that really changed everything for us was talking with those referrals from around the country, hearing those people talk about the systems and service that they receive. And then when we went on the site visits, St. Louis really stood out. They have the heart system and they also have the knowing system. And the staff would agree that St. Louis really stood out with their comments about heart in their service.
As a follow-up, I know in the past election, municipal election, you were not mandated to send out vote by mail applications as you were in the presidential cycle. Correct?
For when, I'm sorry,
So in this past municipal cycle 21.
right,
You were not mandated to send out vote by mail applications.
not to everyone, no.
Correct, correct. And I'm assuming that law that was passed for the presidential was only for that particular year, given the pandemic, due to the expense of us having to actually send out, you know, quite a few ballots. I think you sent, it was like 480,000 that you had sent out, 488 if I recall correctly. So this next cycle, you're not going to have that mandate on you to send out applications to every single voter is not required of you. Is that correct?
We are required to send out a notice that everyone can be on the permanent vote by mail list.
Correct. I understand that, but my question was specifically, you're not mandated to send out an application to every single voter as you were in the presidential of 20.
No.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member DeCiani. We have Member Eckhoff, then I have Member Rutledge, Member Zay, Member Schwarzy, and then back to Member Ozog.
I thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for all your hard work and your staff's hard work in preparing this and putting it together. I have a question for the state's attorney. Are we bound to vote for the lowest responsible bidder? Is that the standard that we're supposed to use when we view all this?
It's the lowest responsible bidder. So it depends what you're going to be using as the most qualified or responsible. If you've got, I think Mr. Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, said there weren't apples to apples comparisons as far as pricing goes. So there's going to be deviations and differences, but it's the lowest responsible bidder.
Right. Okay. So that's what I thought. And as it stands right now, when I take a look at what was submitted, I'd like to know, maybe we can get this later, prior to voting, but what apples aren't matching up with the other apples? Because we've got almost a photo finish between the top three companies. Only 1 point separates them, and 1 point doesn't seem to be enough to justify 5 million of taxpayer dollars. When, as somebody else said, we've got other needs, especially with body cams in this county. So I would like to get a list of what doesn't match up and why it only accounts for 1 point in this. It seems to me also somebody raised the fact that I don't see where the pricing is actually factored into this calculation of what the total points are. So what I'd ask is that, well, I guess Mr. Johnson's going to answer that one.
So we don't have the exact pricing that would be different going with the ES&S system because that system would require over the course of 10 years, significantly more expenditures on ballot printing and paper. So their system does not encompass everything that the HART system did. So we would then have to engage with other vendors over the course of that 10 years to purchase ballot paper and other services. So the total cost of running the elections is much different than the gap between what we would be paying directly to HART and what we'd be paying directly to ES&S. And then just the second misconception, which I tried to address with Member Krajewski, there was not a photo finish for the final decision. There was very close scoring of the initial bid submittals before we spent the following 3 months reviewing the systems. There was not a photo finish in our staff's assessment at the end as to which system we thought best served the needs of DuPage County.
And I appreciate that, but that's not the way what I read when I prepared for the meeting is. Now you're telling me that now. I'd like to see something that I could read to say, okay, it was what, 47, 46, 45, but in reality, because of the 3 months extra of work that we did, it's 55, 47, 46 or something like that. But it just doesn't come across in what I read that there's this big difference. And if electronic system software is going to require additional costs that HART is not going to require over the 10-year period, then I think give us a good faith estimate as to what those additional costs are so we can compare the price. Because if it's just the price to purchase, but there's other costs that electronic system software is going to incur that HART's not going to, then that's another benefit to them. But I can't look at this and read what I read and somehow factor that in just based on what you're telling me. I need the information. If you could give me detailed information and maybe kick this a couple of weeks so we could get it from you, so then I can compare as closely as possible apples to apples and decide what I want to do. I mean, I may agree with you guys 110% and maybe HART stays at 10.6 and electronic goes up to 9.8 and it's not that big of a difference price wise. But right now, for me to vote for this, and when just the paperwork I'm given says an extra 5 million of taxpayer dollars, I don't think I can do that. So
Sure.
I'd ask you to consider pulling this from the agenda today and coming back in 2 weeks. I don't think the 2 weeks is going to kill us at all.
Well, I just to respond to your concerns in terms of the paperwork you were presented and the scoring, and again, as the clerk pointed out, we worked closely with procurement and the finance department throughout this process. So that was the scoring model that they presented to us, do numerical scores.
I'm not
for
saying
the
you
first
did
round of
anything wrong.
submittals.
I'm sure you did everything right. I'm just saying what you're telling me here today isn't reflected in the memo that we're asked to read in our packet, which we all read. So I just want the information, additional information that you're talking about today, put down in black and white so I can read it. And if I have any other further follow-up questions of that, I can ask you in 2 weeks.
We have Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chairwoman Chaplin, and thank you, Clerk Kazmarek, for coming and talking with us this morning. Just a couple of points I'd like to make. As the environmental chairwoman, I had suggested quite some time ago that we stop printing all of this. So I want to clarify that this system will print ballots as needed rather than the stacks of ballots that we have to print should everybody show up to vote.
The direction of elections is moving away from electronics and into paper. And paper is durable and it's viable for recount. And SB 1 and HR 1 both are urging election officials to choose paper, and we'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah, let me clarify, I am 100% behind all paper ballots. That's not really my question. My question is, when a voter comes and presents their desire to vote, does this system print a ballot then?
Yes.
Or are you, excellent, that's what I was trying to get to. Then the other comment I have to make today is, we heard the sheriff say, we don't pay our people enough. We're hearing you talk about judges pay, and I did raise that issue before the municipals, that we weren't even hitting minimum wage with our early voting judges. And day of is abysmal what we're paying our judges. So thank you for your request for that. But this is a recurring theme. Nick Kottmeyer talked a month or so ago about the pay study that we've done that shows we are missing the boat with our the surrounding counties. And this is something I think we have to address as a county. 2% or 2.5% pay raise for the sheriff. And Nick, I don't know if the sheriff was, from what I'm hearing, the sheriff was not included in the pay study and that they need to do one of their own. I fully support that. But, you know, if we want the best in this county, we can't pay people the least. So I'm going to keep bringing this up every single time I hear it. So thank you, Clerk Kazmarek, for advocating for your judges. I love the fact that we're not printing up ballots and ballots and ballots that will never be used and need to be destroyed or recycled or whatever you do with them. So thank you so much for your presentation. I'll be supporting you 100%.
I wanted to add that the day for an election judge starts between 5 and 5:30 and goes on to at least 8 o'clock, sometimes 9. They also come the day before for a 1 hour minimum setup of the polling place. And so that's what, $8 an hour? And so this would bring them up to maybe 15, 16 an hour, depending on how many hours they put in.
Thank you, Clerk, for making those points.
Thank you. Members A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I know you and your staff put a lot of work into this, and we received a lot of information today, and obviously this is a big decision. And with the climate after the presidential election, this is a big decision, and we're going to be second guessed, and there's going to be questions. And we've had a lot, again, for us to do our due diligence, and I know your deputy clerk kind of has been changing this where it's like, well, it's not apples to apples, as Member Eckhoff said, but that's the information we're getting today. And if we're not doing our job, when the second bidder was half the cost, and I understand, and Hart could be the best one out there, but there's issues. I mean, questions that we have. I mean, I know it says it's manufactured in the USA, but it also said on your video presentation that they have a world-class supply chain. So that leads to tell me, being in manufacturing, that they're getting their components from other places throughout the world and they assemble it here in the United States. So that's questions I would like to ask the supplier. You know, what additional cost? How do our poll books interact with this? Do they? Are those now scrapped?
No,
So-
our
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
our poll books integrate perfectly with the system. In fact, that's exactly what they have in St. Louis County. They have the no-ink poll pads, and then they have the Hart Verity. And it requires no additional certification from the state. And they used our, in the demonstrations, the presentations that we had in June, they were actually using the no-ink poll pad with their equipment to show us how that worked.
Okay. Again, you spent 3 months doing this. We're getting a lot of this information today, 15, 20 minutes ago. Again, it's a big decision. Is there a problem putting this off for 2 weeks and getting more information and getting information from the vendor? I mean, I know our primary is not next year until June. I mean, again, to come in here and give us a nice presentation, we appreciate it. But again, for us to do our due diligence, questions about why one was ranked 1 and one was ranked 2 for half the amount, which is $5 million, which is a lot of money. When we're talking about taxpayer money, that's a lot of money. And I just think there's questions. I mean, I think a lot of us have extra questions. Is there a problem with putting this off for 2 weeks and bring it back to us?
Our minds won't change in 3 weeks.
I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm asking you for just, we have questions we have to ask. We have to do our due diligence here on the board and getting the presentation and getting the budget stuff. And your deputy clerk said, well, the bid submittals are different from what happened after the last 3 months, and then things changed. Well, how did things change? When I see the second bidder and it says on your paperwork, a final, what is this, final and best offer? But it's really not your final and best offer because we have there's other expenses that could be put into that. So that's the things we're kind of talking about. If there's additional printing, what does that change that to? Again, you know, and I know, if we go with this vendor, and we most likely will, but people are going to ask, why did you not check on the second vendor, and why are they half as much you're spending on voting equipment? And that's the questions that we have. And again, I don't think 2 weeks it's not gonna change your mind. It might not change my mind. Again, we all have issues. This is a big issue. Voter integrity, fair and open and transparent elections are big. And then being transparent, us taking an extra 2 weeks to make sure all questions are answered, I think is being open and transparent at that point.
If I may interject just a minute, please. Members A, the clerk did invite all of us on an email back in June to come and watch these presentations. She invited us to come, I believe it was June 21st, June 24th, and June 25th. She asked us all to be there because this is very important. She was very transparent in her dealings with this. I'm sorry that you didn't take her up and go to these presentations. On August 8th, she again sent out an email inviting all of us to go down to her office, go to the warehouse, check out the election division, and again, sit down and ask any questions. Now, I know we didn't have this proposal in front of us, but that would have given you an opportunity to, you know, see what they were purchasing and maybe ask some questions. So to suggest that our clerk hasn't been transparent is really very misleading when she has been very transparent in the process. And again, I'm sorry that nobody took her up to go watch the presentations that they were demonstrating. Each of the top 3 vendors were there demonstrating their equipment, and we could have all seen how it was going down. Just wanted to make that very important. Yes,
Madam
go ahead.
Chair, I didn't say she wasn't being transparent. I'm just saying by going 2 more weeks, it gives us more chance to be open and transparent, get everybody's questions asked, not be backed up against county board and a presentation we get and then asked, as soon as this presentation's over, going to be asked in 5 minutes to make a purchase or vote on something that we just got information this morning. It seems like there's a lot of questions. A lot of board members have been asking questions. And again, it doesn't mean we're saying the clerk didn't do her job. She did do her job. We just have additional questions for a very large appropriation here at the county. That's very important. That again, you know, and I know people are going to challenge on both sides. Why did you do this? Why did you not do that? I mean, that's the question. I would rather err on the side of safety and give 2 weeks for additional questions and then come back and then move to approve it or not approve it.
Thank you, members A. Hang on 1 second. We have member Schwarzy, member Ozak, member Garcia, and then member Krajewski. Go ahead, member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Clerk, for your presentation. With regards to the voting systems, you said there were 7 members on the committee? Who, you don't have to give me names, but what staff members or whatever made up this committee?
Well, from the election side, we had our deputy, and then we had the manager of vote by mail, and we had our voting manager and his and another voting manager. And then we had our warehouse manager and our voting registration manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you work closely with staff as well?
Yes, every step of the way.
Okay.
And I was also very careful to not talk to staff about what I wanted. I didn't want to influence them.
Okay.
And I just saw that everyone started to come together at the end, especially after the site visits, which you won't be able to do, and talking with those referrals from around the country.
So based on the different companies that came in, the presentations, you and the rest of the members on this committee were absolutely 100% on board with HART, knowing that with its uniformity, with the referrals, all the features of it, that it's the best system to give DuPage residents confidence in a safe and fair election, especially based on all the attacks of the legitimacy of the last election, and certainly many of the various states attacking voting rights right now going on across the country. In your guys' opinion, was it 100% that this
Yes.
committee wanted this hard
Yes.
to give our residents a safe and fair election?
Absolutely. And by the way, I forgot someone. That would be our IT manager. Sorry, Matt, I'm sure he's watching. And so he was a vital part of this whole process as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Shorzy. Next, we have Member Ozog.
Thank you. My husband has been an election judge the last number of elections. Would it be reasonable to say that this system would make life easier for election judges, especially at the end of the evening, tapes, et cetera, that sort of thing?
Night and day.
Okay.
There's just no comparison.
Um,
And the equipment even stays in the suitcase, the carrier. Don't
Okay.
even have to take it out if you don't want to.
Okay, so that's okay. And the other question I had, I just wanted to make a comment. We have not spent any money on machines in 15 and 20 years. I think that's an important factor here. This system is made in the United States. Of course, there are parts of it that will come from other parts of the world, but the system itself is made in the United States. It's serviced in the United States. The company is a United States entity. We are getting paper ballots. And I want to point out, talking about a 5-year replacement, say we need to replace the system that's half as much, okay? I was the manager for the Metro sign program in 1985. Those signs are still up system-wide. They have not been replaced in 35 years, okay? So that's how things actually work. If it isn't broke, it doesn't get fixed. Our system has had huge problems in the last, especially the last 5 years. So I will be completely behind you today. I think this is a good proposal and I can stand behind it because of the advantages it gives us, and in particular, the made in the United States, because there's been so much election conspiracy that we've dealt with over the past 10 months that I think that is a really important factor. So paper ballots made in the United States, and the fact that we may not be replacing this system for another 15 years, I can completely support you today. Thank you.
And Member Ozog, your husband and 3,000 other election judges will have to be trained. And that's why we need to move on this, because everyone needs to be retrained to use this equipment. And election day is not June 28th in our office. It starts in May with early voting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Member Garcia.
Thank you so much, Clerk Kazmarek, and the whole committee for all the hard work putting on this. You actually just said what I wanted to say. I've been in software issues where you had to be retrained on a new software, and it does take time. So this is now we have to wait to order the equipment, get the equipment delivered, and then you have to train everyone who has to touch this equipment, and it's going to take a long time. This is not like, so waiting 2 weeks is going to make a difference because it's going to put us behind again another 2 weeks, and it's going to put a rush on your staff. So that is why I think this is a decision that needed to be made yesterday. And I really just appreciate I know you personally have been watching out for years on this, and you've been fighting for this equipment, and I am going to be behind you 1,000% today. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Member Garcia. We have Member Kajewski.
Yeah, thank you. Regarding St. Louis County, because I just looked them up, they're like 979,000 population, so it's almost identical to DuPage County. With regards to the HART system that they just got in September, can you maybe you already did check with them, but I just saw they paid 6.9 million for that system. Ours is 10 point something. So I'd just be curious what we're buying that's costing more than what they bought down there. And I noticed they were $3 million lower than one of the other bids. So St. Louis went with a lower cost bidding system, but they paid 6.9 for that HART contract that they got. So if you could just maybe somebody check with them and see what they bought and what they're paying for versus what we're looking to buy, what's different.
Right, well, we would have to look at their contract. And also, I don't know if that includes all of the additional services. I don't know if it includes 10 years. I just don't know.
Right,
So
no, that's why I would
yeah.
just be curious what they spent 6.9 for this heart system. Same population. I'm not sure what extras that we have versus what they have. Is Heart just charging us more? I don't know, but I'd just like to see that if we do wait 2 weeks. But thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. We have Member Desart. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for your presentation, Madam Clerk. Regarding the first part of your presentation, I know that we have been behind in paying our election judges, so I applaud you in bringing their salaries up to where they should be right now. I wanted to mention that oftentimes, nearly every 2 weeks when we have meetings, we're given presentations and then having to vote on those, on what was presented later in the morning. So this is not unusual at all. And while I agree that this is a especially large and necessary expenditure, I want to say that there were 27 pages on this topic in our board packet. And what I do is when I read my board packet over the weekend, we usually get it on Friday, I will reach out to the department head and ask my questions to them or take my questions to Vic Hotmeyer. So certainly Madam Clerk was available to me yesterday to ask my questions, and I'm sure other board members could have called her and asked her questions as well regarding this expenditure. So I am very content with the answers you gave me, Madam Clerk. Again, I thank you for your presentation and I fully support this expenditure. Thank you.
Having a sidebar here. Go ahead, Member. Thank you, Member Desart. Member Hart, are you done? Yeah, Member Hart, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin and Clerk Desmaric. We really appreciate your being here today and walking us through. It's clearly an issue that we know you're passionate about. And I do want to clarify one thing. I see some debate occurring on the floor, and I think we're having two debates. One is about the validity of asking for new election equipment, and other is about doing the due diligence and answering members' questions. And I don't think a single person on this board is opposed and is in a contrary opinion to the fact that we need new election equipment. I think that's a given. I've been pleased with a lot of the contents of the presentation. As vendor, I want to clarify there's no relation between you and the vendor. You know, I do think it's reasonable to wait 2 weeks to answer some of the questions that we have as a professional courtesy to some of our colleagues. You know, I know training is an important part of the job. I don't believe training is going to occur in 2 weeks. I don't believe it's going to occur in 4 weeks. We're still nearly a year away from the election. So I would totally support the idea of tabling. It doesn't mean I don't support the proposal. In fact, I very well might, but since there's so many questions that members have on the board, I don't see why we wouldn't do that as a courtesy. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Hart. Member Renan, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Clerk, and our procurement and finance. I just kind of wanted to remind everyone, you know, I mean, I think we all think it's important to vet contracts, and our county procurement allows for the vetting process that considers cost, but it also allows for best. There's a certain subjective quality to it. Whether we agree with that or not, that's what it says. And if we want to change it, we're certainly welcome to do that. We see all the time in engineering and transportation contracts, we take what is best. We do not take what is cheapest. And you know, that would be the easy part, right? To always choose what's cheapest. But we're DuPage County, we've got high standards. We've got very old voting equipment. We've got obsolete voting equipment. I think what the clerk has set forth, it's new technology. It sounds like it'll hold up. I think she has done her due diligence. And I think, you know, just as when the sheriff came to us and wanted body cams and tasers, you know, we took what was best. We didn't take what was cheapest. And we worked with him and we trusted him in his position as a department head, as a stakeholder, somebody who really knows his business. And I think that we owe our clerk the same respect.
Thank you, Member Renan. Are there any other questions? Member Krajewski, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, we were giving out ARPA money and we had a $15 million presentation in front of us that we almost had enough hands raised to kind of go forward with it. And with the DuPage bill, but a number of people had questions, myself included, with a lot of questions. Now it's down to $7.5 million, and we're still having staff looking at stuff if it's even ARPA qualified. So when we get these big price tags that come in front of us, it's our job to sit there and ask a bunch of questions. And like I said, we were one hand away from moving forward with $15 million, which has now been reduced to 7.5, which may even go farther away because some of it staff's looking at to see if it's even ARPA qualified. This is there was two bidders that first round, second round were virtually tied with no price being factored into it. And I got a $5.5 million difference. I just want to make sure that this park is the best one and what those issues are that separated them in this third and final round to justify spending an extra $5.5 million. McHenry and Lake, they're using the system. Okay, Kane's using the other one, albeit older. St. Louis seems to be happy. They're going away from touch screens to paper. I understand paper ballots. Everybody wants to go there, but there's a big difference between the two. I got to get my information on why $5.5 million is justified to spend additional. And maybe it is, like I said, St. Louis they move forward with it. I want to know why they're only paying 6.5 instead of 10 point something. I assume we're getting some extra stuff. Maybe we don't need the extra stuff. I don't know. St. Louis is happy with theirs, or maybe I'm not sure what the difference is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Kaczynski. And as far as the ARPA funds in this go, the county, one of our main core functions is to provide an election, right? We don't have to necessarily fund the Conventioners Visitors Bureau or choose DuPage or any of those other entities, but we have a statutory requirement that says we have to fund an election. We have to put on an election. So that's a little bit of the difference there in those two expenditures. We're not really comparing apples to apples. So I just want to make that clear. And of course, we always welcome and want to have questions and good discussion, just like we're having here right now. So my next on the list for calling would be Member Eckhoff. Member Zay, did you want to speak again or? Okay, Member Eckhoff, go ahead, please.
In response to one of the things you said, that we had an opportunity to go down to the clerk's office. I checked my book. I was out of town on vacation, so I didn't have a chance to go down there. But even if I had been here in Whedon, I probably wouldn't have gone, because that's what we rely on staff to do, is to vet these different vendors. And I don't have time to go to every single vetting of every single vendor in every single section of this county. So I've got another job that I do that takes more time than this, actually, which is taking more and more time every meeting. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of different factors being thrown around here that I sense and a lot of other people sense are not included in staff's report. So we're just asking to put it in the report. So I've got a chance to read it. So I've got a chance to think about it. And so I've got a chance to ask follow-up questions about that. And I don't think that's asking a whole lot. And to give you an example of another time we did it, Animal Control had a request for cat and dog food. And they gave us a little report, and we had a lot of questions on it. And the staff got up and gave us about a 10-minute dissertation about why they had picked what they picked. And we're like, that's great. That information would have been great, but we didn't get to read it. So we're going to kick it 2 weeks so we can think about it and read it in the next report. So that's all we're asking to do. It's not something like we're picking on the clerk's office. And when those additional factors get put in here, we may agree with them, but $5 million to me is a lot of money. When the two companies are only 1 point off, I don't think it's going from the best to the cheapest. And I think we've got a duty under the law to say who's the lowest responsible bidder. And when you're only 1 point off in qualifications, but 5 million off or 50% in cost, I got a big problem with that, and I'm not going to vote for it.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just again, you had brought up statutory, rights, and the county has to do elections. That's the role of the county clerk, is to do elections. Our role as a county board is to safeguard the taxpayers' money. So again, when we talk about body cameras, that went to JPS, then it went to finance. It had 2 weeks where then there was try to have some additional changes made and some contract reductions and other things. Again, you're hearing from board members that are saying, not saying we're against it. We're just saying we need extra time to get some questions answered for a huge purchase, which is $10 million, which again is important as election equipment. We're not saying we're against it. We're just saying we have questions, especially when there's such a huge gap between the first bidder and the second bidder. And I think we all said when the clerk came and said I don't know if it's coincidence or not, she said she needs $10 million for voting equipment. And then the bids came back and we're going with the company that's $10 million. I mean, that just has some explanations. When there's people at 7 and 5, that we just need some explanation, and we got a lot of information today. We're not saying we're against this. We all know we need election equipment. And again, I do have to disagree when he said we had big troubles. I mean, huge problems in elections. There was never the integrity of these elections in DuPage County were in question. There were issues that happened, but the counts were all right. So saying there's huge problems never put the integrity of our election up. Yes, there were technical problems that happened, but ultimately the elections went through. Yeah, returns didn't come back at right times and everything else, but the integrity of the election was right. So I don't want people to think that there was huge problems. There was some problems, but the integrity of our elections here in DuPage have never been in question.
Right, absolutely. And I don't think anybody questioned the integrity of our past elections. They said there were huge problems, and we all know that was at the closing in the evenings and trying to get those returns in and taking till 2 a.m. in the morning when all the other counties had their counts in. But nobody here, I don't believe, suggested that. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I just want to make a couple of comments. Clerk Kaczmarek, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your and your team's work on all of this. I know it was a difficult process. You guys, did a lot of work. I appreciate the videos showing you out visiting the other counties. Really good job. Our sheriff and our clerk and all of our elected officials in DuPage County really go above and beyond. And I just want to thank all of them. And with that said, procedurally, this is going to require a 2/3 vote. I don't think we're going to have a 2/3 vote to pass it today. So I would suggest pulling this item from the agenda today, but that's the consensus of the board, rather than take a vote on that. And we can bring it back in 2 weeks. Member Zay, go ahead.
I just also had one question to get that maybe if we're going to bring this back in the 14th of September, why the change? We all said that we wanted to buy election equipment and one-time capital was good to take out of reserves. Why is this being taken out sales tax? I don't understand that. That really limits the flexibility of this county board to do things. I think we all said one-time capital expense for election machines was a good idea, to take out of reserves. Taking it out of our sales tax now gives us less flexibility as a board to do other things, especially when we don't know, again, what's going on with pandemic. I would rather see this come out of our reserves than take it out of our sales tax that we could use for other items.
Well, we can, Jeff or Nick, do you want to come up and speak to that?
I mean, you don't have to. That's just, if we can get that answer when it's brought up in the next time, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we can address that in the 2 weeks. So if it's okay with the members, that we will pull that item today. 3 weeks. I'm sorry, it's 3 weeks because we have the 1 week off.
14.
So we just pull it off?
She can pull it off.
All right, so when we come to it, we'll table it. Okay, so when we come, so both 2 items have to be tabled. Okay, let me get those. Okay, all right, hello, everyone. Okay, guys, we're reconvened. Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the
I
Finance
move to
Committee
approve the
minutes of
minutes.
August 10th.
I move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by member Kajewski, a second by member Selman.
Aye.
Come on, guys, we have a lot of business to do. Let's get serious here. We have a motion by
Motion
member
and a second
Kajewski, a
for the
second by
minutes.
member Selman to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. We move on to item 7, budget transfers. I'll entertain a motion on
So moved.
FIR 0421221. We have a motion by member Kajewski, a second by member Garcia, or member Desart. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We move on to procurement requisitions. Member Kajewski,
Thank you,
Animal
Madam Chair. I
Services.
move to approve a contract with Butler Animal Health Holding Company LLC for the purchase of our veterinary pharmaceuticals and medical supplies.
A motion by member Kajewski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Member Kajewski.
Thank you. I move for recommendation approval budget transfer from 1100-1300, total of 1700, going to another account 53,090 to account 52,220, and that's also for $1,000.
We have
Couple
a-
other transfers.
We have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Desart. All those in favor or okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We move on to economic development. Member Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of EDR 038121 resolution. Amendment to the approval issuance of payments by DuPage County to training providers through the workforce innovation. This is a $143,753 increase.
We have a motion by member Selman and a second by member Krajewski. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Member Chavez.
I'd like to request a motion to approve EDR 038221, a resolution acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, Workforce and Opportunity Act grant for fiscal year 20 intergovernmental agreement 20.
We have a motion by member Chavez, a second by member Selman. Oh,
I did
Oh,
request a motion.
okay,
pardon me.
member Selman motioned, member Desart. Oh, member Desart motion, member Selman second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Great, I'd like to.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go ahead, member Chavez.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. I'd like to request a motion EDR 0381-21, a resolution for acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for an amount of $16,120 for economic development.
Okay, we have a motion by member Desart, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Chavez. With that,
Thank
we
you,
move
Madam
on to
Chair.
legislative. Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve LEGP 0325-21, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to Rogers C. Markart and Company Incorporated to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and State Executive Branch. This contract covers the period of September 15th, 2021 through September 14th, 2022 for County Board for a contract total not to exceed $90,000.
We have, member Desart, how did you make that motion? Did you?
I moved.
You moved. So we have a second. So member Desart moved, member Garcia second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve LEGP 0324-21, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to Rauchi and Sullivan Strategies LLC to approve consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and State Executive Branch. This contract covers the period of September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022 for a contract for the county board for a contract total not to exceed $50,000.
We have a motion by member Desart, second by member Garcia. Member Selman, please go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to briefly echo comments I made in committee. I want to thank staff as well as member Desart for really elevating these lobbyists. I think we all in March of last year said we need to be hearing from you specifically, face to face as much as possible to get that information to our lobbyists at the state and federal level. And I think this committee has really helped us elevate that. I know what they look like now, which is very different from past years. So I'm happy to support these contracts with that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your comments, Member Selman. I move to approve LEGP 0323-21, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to BGR Government Affairs LLC to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the U.S. Congress and the Federal Executive Branch for DuPage County's Division of Transportation, Stormwater Management, and all other county departments and agencies. This contract covers the period of September 1st, 2021 through August 31st of 2022 for County Board for a contract total amount not to exceed $80,000.
We have a motion by member Desart, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Desart. We move on to Public Works, member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of PWP 033821, recommendation for the approval of contract to Jake Congdon Sewer Services Incorporated for water main extension in the Timberlake subdivision for an amount not to exceed $805,009.63 per lowest responsible bid.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member DeCiani. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Ozark?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 033921, recommendation for the approval of a contract to ComEd for electric utility services for the non-connected county facilities for facilities management, 4-year period, contract amount not to exceed $50,000.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Ozog?
I move for approval of FMP 033221, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Wheaton Sanitary District for sanitary sewer utility services for the county campus for facilities management for a 4-year period not to exceed $1,850,000, not suitable for competitive bids, public utility.
Motion by member Ozog, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Finally, I move for approval FMP 033121, recommendation for the approval of a contract to the city of Wheaton for water utility services for the county campus for facilities management for the 4-year period, October 21st, 2021 to 2025. Total contract amount not to exceed $2,870,000, not suitable for competitive bids.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, member Ozog. With that, we move on to technology. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move TEP 345-21, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to CDWG for support of Veritas Network software backup. The total is $39,617.97 via a cooperative purchasing agreement pricing.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Chavez. Did you move on that, member
I
Selman?
did, but it's all right.
Okay, so we have a second by member Pachowski. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Selman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move on TEP 346-21, a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Care Company for the management of the county GPS core site. This is a total of $39,500 and is a sole source product.
We have a motion by member Selman, a second by member Chavez. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Selman. With that, we move on to transportation. Member Pachowski.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman. Again, move to approve DTR 39921, an awarding resolution to Mead Inc. for traffic signal streetlight maintenance program for an estimated county cost of $3,221,423.76, which is low bid.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member DeCiani. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you. Move to approve DTR 400-21, recommendation for the approval of a contract to SKC Construction Inc. for the 2021 pavement preservation crack sealing program for an estimated county cost of $22,100, which is low bid.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Pachowski.
Thank you. Move to approve DTR 40221, which is acceptance of a local technical assistance grant from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, CMAP, for the development of a corridor of land transportation plan along Butterfield Road within the communities of Lombard, Downers Grove, Oak Brook, and Uncorporate DuPage County for a county cost of $4,800.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Garcia. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Pachowski.
Thank you. I move to approve DTR 40421, which is a local agency agreement between the County of DuPage and Illinois Department of Transportation for central sign system expansion at various locations for an estimated county cost is $1,500,140.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Pachowski.
I would make a motion to combine agenda items 5 through 9, which are all contracts.
Okay, items 5 through, we have a motion and a second on combining items 5 through 9. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Member Pachowski,
Then I
please go
move
ahead.
to approve DTP 34421, contract with Monroe Truck Equipment Inc. to furnish and deliver Monroe Spreader Plow Repair and Placement Parts to the Division of Transportation for a contract not to exceed $60,000. Move to approve DTR 34321, a contract to Standard Equipment Company for a contract to furnish and deliver Elgin sweeper and Vector catch basin clean and repair replacement parts as needed for a contract not to exceed $119,600. Motion to approve DTP 34221, a contract to Priority Products, Inc. to furnish and deliver Weatherhead hydraulic fittings, hoses, and connectors as needed for Department of Transportation, not to exceed $40,000. Move to approve DTP 34121, a contract to Genuine Parts, Inc., DBA Napa Auto Parts to furnish and deliver automotive repair and replacement parts as needed for a contract not to exceed $600,000. And move to approve DTP 34021, a contract to Huff and Huff, Inc. for professional environmental screening service upon request of the Division of Transportation, Public Works, and Facilities Management for a total contract not to exceed $250,000.
Okay, we have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion on these items? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member
Thank you,
Pachowski.
Madam Chairwoman. Move to approve DT 8421, which is ordinance for additional appropriation for the Downers Grove Township Reimbursement Fund, Company 1500, and which is $500,000.
We have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you. Finally, Madam Chairman, move to approve DTR 314B20, an amendment to a resolution issued to Alliance Contractors Inc. for the 2020 Veris Bridge Repair Program and section and to grease the funding $104,211.02, resulting in a final contract of $1,527,873.52, a decrease of 3.16%.
Okay, we have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member
Thank you, Madam
Pachowski.
Chairwoman.
With that, we move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine items 9A through H, which are all acceptance and appropriation
I'm so-
resolutions.
Okay, we need to pull number H. Did you say 9 through H?
9
A through H. You want, so we're gonna do A through G because we're gonna take H and table it.
Okay, 9 through G.
Yes,
Acceptance.
through
and
G, if that's
appropriation.
okay with you.
If it's okay with you, you're the
Yes,
chairman of
that
this
is
committee.
fine. So a
A
motion,
through G.
a motion to combine items A through G. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Garcia to combine items A through G. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Please proceed, member Krajewski.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve FIR 0393 resolution acceptance of the DuPage County Community Development Community or Commission's agreement. FIR 0389-21 resolution, which is acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the 47th year Community Development Block Grant. FIR 0388-21 resolution, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the ILD CEO Community Services Block Grant. FIR 038721 resolution, which is acceptance appropriation of the Aging Case Coordination Unit Fund. FIR 0386-21 resolution, acceptance and appropriation of the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program State Grant. FIR 0385-21, which is a resolution acceptance appropriation of the Illinois Department of Human Services Emergency Solutions Grant. And FIR 0384-21, resolution acceptance and appropriation of program income for the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services Access and Visitation Grant.
Okay, we have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion on these items? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Member Krajewski with item H, we'd like maybe a motion to table.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table FIR 0405-20 resolution, which is additional appropriation for the general fund to the next county board meeting, which is
September 14th.
September
14th.
14th.
We have a second. We have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Salmon. Any discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
I think you can just pull it if you want. Hold your vote on it.
if the issue is if we vote it down today, it's not gonna, we need a 2/3 vote on this to pass. It's not, we don't have a 2/3 vote to pass. So if it doesn't pass and it fails, it's difficult to bring it back. So I would ask for a table motion or a motion to pull.
You just pull it. You can pull it as a
Well,
chair.
Connors advised me not to pull. He said he'd prefer a motion to table.
I mean, she can still pull it.
It's important on the record to have some sort of action that was taken on it today. And if you're going to consider it at a future date, it would be preferable for the record and from following your rules to continue it out either on a motion to table or postpone.
Point of
Okay,
order.
then I'm going to make the executive decision and pull the item. Thank you. Okay, with that, we move on. Go ahead, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0108-21, resolution revision to the personnel budget, 18th Judicial Circuit Court, ARPA item.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0411-21. It's another resolution for the revision to the personnel budget for community services, ARPA item.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Chavez. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0409-21, resolution placing names on payroll.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski.
Move on FIR 0410-21, resolution for approval issuance of payments to small business independent contractors through the Reinvest DuPage Small Business Grant Program, which again is ARPA item.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Salmon. Any discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
I move on FIR 0413-21, a resolution which again allocation of additional 1,500 to choose DuPage to administer the Reinvest DuPage Small Business, again ARPA funded.
50 million.
1.5 million.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski. Who was the second? Member Salmon. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We will be pulling item N from the agenda, from today's agenda. And then Member Krajewski.
Last, I move for motion for CO 0498-21, which is a recommendation for the approval of an amendment to requisition to 2016-297 purchase order number 2081, which is an agreement.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski. Is there a second? Second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Schwarzy, ETSB.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve item ETS R 380-21, a resolution to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois.
We have a motion by Member Schwarzy, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Schwarzy.
I move to approve item ETS R 5621, acceptance of the Illinois State Police 911 System Consolidation Grant, intergovernmental grant agreement, the amount of $434,115.45.
We have a motion by Member Schwarzy. Who is that second by? By Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. And we move to item 11, informational. Member Krajewski, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just noticed Member Culvert's actually been on the TV up there. Did we have to put her in?
We have her marked in.
But don't we have to?
Oh, do we have to approve her to come in? Okay, well, what's the reason why she's coming in? Member Covert, why are you zooming? We need to find out why you're calling in.
It's a family emergency, Chairwoman, Chaplain.
Okay, so under the Section 7 of Open Meetings Act does allow members to attend remotely for items such as a family emergency. Can I have a motion to allow member? We have a motion by a Member Salmon, a second by Member Desart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, welcome, Member Covert.
Whenever she got on, then I guess you would with those I votes in there.
Yeah. Okay, and then continue on, please.
Sure.
Member Krajewski with the
Yeah,
information.
I move to receive and place on file informational items, A, payment of claims, B, wire transfers, and C, appointments.
We have a motion and a second to receive and place on file items A, B, and C under informational. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Desart.